soil, like empty steel blocks, stacked inside massive container graveyards. From steel sheets stamped and welded by robots to withstand storms across the ocean, to the moment they are dismantled or reborn as homes, cafes, and storage units, shipping containers are entering a strangely paradoxical life cycle. So why has a symbol of global trade become a burden for America? And how can these forgotten steel boxes turn into a new industry? Join Terran Works as we explore it in today's video. If there is one place that most clearly exposes the fragility of the global supply chain, it is the Port of Los Angeles, the largest trade gateway in the United States. In 2024 alone, the port handled more than 10.29 million TEUs, revealing the enormous scale of goods flowing into the American market. But behind those impressive numbers lies a paradox that few people notice. Once the cargo is unloaded, many containers do not immediately continue on a new journey. They remain around the port, in logistics yards, along rail lines, or stacked into massive walls of steel. The crisis reached its peak during 2021 to 2022, when the pandemic caused American consumer demand to surge. Ports, warehouses, trucking networks, and rail systems could not keep up. Containers began getting stuck in the wrong places. Agricultural exports were delayed, contracts were canceled, and overseas customers turned to other suppliers. American businesses gradually lost credibility in international markets. In the dairy industry alone, container shortages, delayed vessels, and rising shipping costs caused U.S. companies to lose more than $1.3 billion in export revenue during the first 9 months of 2021. The more containers piled up in storage yards, the higher logistics costs climbed. In the end, the price was paid not only by shipping companies, but also by farmers, exporters, and millions of consumers. The Port of Los Angeles does not merely reveal an overloaded transportation system. It exposes the broken rhythm of the global economy, in a place once seen as a symbol of modern trade speed. The main reason containers are left behind in the United States is not because they are damaged, but because the flow of trade between the US and China is so unbalanced. In 2024, the United States imported about $438.7 billion worth of goods from China, but exported only around $143.2 billion in return, creating a trade deficit of nearly $295.5 billion. Most of these imports are consumer goods, electronics, clothing, household items, toys, furniture, machinery, and components. Products that come in enormous volumes, vary widely in size, and almost have to be shipped in containers because they are easy to stack, seal, protect, and transfer from ocean vessels to trucks or rail. As a result, containers have become almost irreplaceable from China, but exported only around $143.2 billion in return, creating a trade deficit of nearly $295.5 billion. Most of these imports are consumer goods, electronics, clothing, household items, toys, furniture, machinery, and components. Products that come in enormous volumes, vary widely in size, and almost have to be shipped in containers because they are easy to stack, seal, protect, and transfer from ocean vessels to trucks or rail. As a result, containers have become almost irreplaceable. But once the goods have entered the US market, the container itself becomes a difficult problem. Either it must be shipped empty back to Asia, or it must remain in storage yards, waiting for an export shipment that is close enough, fast enough, and profitable enough to fill it. In a transportation system where every minute a ship spends at berth, every square meter of deck space, and every hour of loading labor is converted into money, an empty container is no longer seen as an asset. It becomes a burden that must be dealt with. Then the COVID-19 pandemic hit. As Americans were stuck at home and shopping online at record speed, goods from Asia poured into the United States like a flood, and containers could not be turned around fast enough. They became trapped at ports, storage yards, rail terminals, and deep inland. Meanwhile, Asian factories were running short of empty containers to keep exporting goods. Shipping lines, logistics companies, and exporters began hunting for empty containers across the United States. Container yards that had once been seen almost as scrap suddenly became stockpiles of valuable assets. When supply could not keep up with demand, freight rates soared. Routes that had once cost only a few $1,000s were pushed to more than $20,000 during the most stressful period. At that point, the calculation for shipping companies became very clear. If they waited for U.S. scoring export cargo, a container might have to travel deep inland, spend several more weeks being loaded, and then return to the port. But if it was sent back to Asia empty right away, it could quickly be used for a much higher paying import shipment. So during the crisis, many containers left the United States empty, while American export goods remained behind. The 2021 crisis therefore revealed a deeper truth. A container does not have a fixed value. Its value changes depending on location, timing, and scarcity. In the wrong place, it is a burden. But when the world needs it to keep moving, that empty steel box can become the key to an entire trade route. In a container manufacturing plant, everything begins with large steel coils or heavy steel sheets being fed into a cutting line and trimmed to precise dimensions. From a flat surface, the steel is divided into different parts, such as sidewalls, roof panels, doors, bottom frames, and load-bearing beams. The steel sheets then pass through a corrugating machine, where powerful pressure forms long, even ribs across the surface. These ribs give the container its strength, helping it resist impact, prevent bending, and remain rigid when stacked during transportation. Once the parts are ready, workers and welding robots begin assembling the main frame, including the corner posts, cross members, bottom frame, and roof frame. Each steel wall panel is placed in the correct position and welded firmly into place, gradually turning separate pieces into one massive box-shaped structure. Next, the floor is installed using heavy-duty plywood or specialized materials, securely fastened to the bottom frame so it can support tens of tons of cargo. The container doors are also fitted with hinges, locking bars, rubber seals, and handles to ensure they open and close firmly, remain watertight, and provide safe protection for the goods inside. After the structure is completed, the container moves to the surface treatment area, where the entire steel body is cleaned, shot blasted, or roughened to remove rust, oil, grease, and metal dust. A rust-proof primer is applied first, followed by the outer paint layer to protect the container from sunlight, rain, sea salt, and constant impacts. Finally, each container goes through quality inspection, including water tightness testing, dimensional checks, weld inspection, and door operation tests, before being numbered, marked with identification codes, and moved to the yard for delivery. When a container becomes too old, badly dented, or no longer meets international shipping standards, it begins a new journey, recycling through melting. First, the container is moved to a dismantling area, where workers remove non-metal components such as the wooden floor, rubber seals, insulation, electrical wires, or any remaining accessories. After that, before long, the steel clips corroded and snapped, causing all 2 million tires to lose their connections and become loose, mobile objects. In a region like Florida, where severe storms are common, powerful currents turn these tires into roaming battering rams, repeatedly slamming them into the surrounding natural coral reefs. As a result, instead of serving as the foundation for a new ecosystem, the tires became mechanical tools of destruction for the existing one. Once the bindings broke and the tires became mobile, the situation out of control.